Hello and welcome to Ellaeenah Ascension Network. I am Ellaeenah, and I am honored to be your light friend eternally. Through inspired meditations and channelings from the cosmic overlord JadeFire and other divine masters of white light, let us proceed together on our spiritual journey as lovers of Gaia and beings of divine light. I invite you to visit our sacred space of learning and oneness, www.jadefirelight.com/blog, to read and hear discourses that provide self-empowering divine wisdom. From my soul to yours, in love light and faith divine, I am Ellaeenah JadeFire. Let us talk of spirit guides and healers. For healers are also, in their own way, channels of spirit guides. There are three kinds of healers in your world. The first kind is a healer who will most certainly not call himself spiritual. He prefers to use tools and implements, medicines and tablets, and the knife and the scalpel. If you ask him if he was guided by a spiritual force, he would most certainly scoff. But the truth is that some of your finest so-called surgeons and doctors are truly spiritual healers. They have become famous for their ability to diagnose what is exactly wrong. Their diagnosis goes beyond the sheet of paper or the X-ray or the test results. Why? Because they have merged with a spiritual force. And that spiritual force helps their scientific knowledge to be even more finely tuned. Then there is the second healer who will call himself a spiritual healer, but he works with plants and herbs. His merger is most certainly with a spiritual force, but not with a spiritual force that you would call a guide or a master or an overlord. This kind of healer has merged with the spiritual force that is constantly emitted by the plant kingdom. Just as human beings have their auric fields, plants also have a pranic field. In fact, their pranic field is far more sensitive, far more refined than your own. The reason is plants live upon the energy of Mother Earth and do not directly consume dead energy, which the animal kingdom
and the human kingdom does consume. Though here we are not advocating that you give up any of your dietary preferences, the truth does remain that the more dead flesh energy that is consumed, the greater is the effort that is needed to be made by the physical vehicle to emit a refined energy. For it is only what you emit that you receive. The third kind of healer is the one we are going to speak of today. The healer who heals with energy. The healer who heals with mantra, affirmations. The healer who is able to clear an energy system and thereby facilitate a healing. This healer has the greatest merger with the spiritual forces that you have called guides and masters. Such a healer may not have a merger with the energy of earth and her elements, because such a healer may not require to tune in or align with the earth and her energy. So let us speak of this healer. It is this healer whose healing will be the deepest, whose healing will be the most refined. For this kind of healer enters the core of the energy system of another. But in order to do that, the healer must enter his own spiritual core first. This is where, beloved, your question now comes in. Once the healer has entered his own core, his deepest and most refined core of energy, is where the healer's merger with the guide or master or cosmic overlord takes place. So let us dwell upon that a little more. We have already explained that the deepest kind of channeling, telepathic energy work, takes place when the channel, in this case the healer, as well as the medium who is being channeled, that is, whether it is the guide, the master, the archangel, the overlord. The two energies merge in the subconscious of the channel. Let us understand this very clearly. The subconscious is that area, if we can call it, that region of energy which the intelligent mind of the channel cannot access unless the channel has broken the barriers between the intelligent mind and the psychic mind. There is what you might call a physical field, which is not truly material or concrete in physicality, but it is most certainly concrete as an energetic seal. This seal is placed in order to protect every human being from his own psychic energy. Now you might wonder why. You need to be protected from your psychic energy. The psychic energy resides along with unresolved, unassimilated energies in the subconscious mind. You are aware of how slowly you take time to deal with your issues. You are aware of how slowly unassimilated energies arise from your subconscious mind to your conscious mind. You are aware that sometimes when the pace of this release from the subconscious to the conscious becomes accelerated, you certainly go into a state of trauma. This field prevents a continued traumatic state. Every human structure is created, as you are aware, around the central core of light as well as unassimilated energy strands that now become your responsibility to assimilate. But these strands activate slowly and gradually throughout the entire lifespan. If the seal was not present, these energy strands would become activated all together simultaneously, causing the physical vehicle to collapse under the tremendous force of unassimilated energy. This seal begins to grow thinner and thinner and thinner. We could almost liken this to peeling off layers of the seal itself. As each energy strand becomes activated, the seal that lies between the physical vehicle, that is the conscious mind, and the subconscious vehicle, which is the psychic mind, begins to get thinner and thinner. Then there comes a stage where the seal is so thin that it is almost not present. At no point, for no human being in living existence, will the seal be absent. It may be an extremely fine filament, but it will be present as a filter. At no point will the psychic mind come into complete contact with the intelligent mind. Not only does this protect the physical vehicle as explained, but it also protects the psychic energy residing therein. The subconscious has your psychic energy treasure trove as well. It must not be allowed to get contaminated. So the filament helps the physical as well as the subconscious vehicle. When this seal becomes a thin filament, the spirit guide, you may call it the cosmic overlord, you may call it the master, you may call it the angel, their energy begins to flood the psychic energy that resides in the subconscious mind. If the filament or the seal is thick, the psychic energy of the guide that you access will remain in a sense outside of you. So it would be accessed by the crown chakra or the brow chakra, which would then filter the energy down to the Hara. Understand that the Hara consciousness is where the subconscious mind resides. Now, as this seal begins to get thinner and becomes a filament, the access to the energy takes place now from 3 centers and not 2. It will take place through the crown, through the brow, and through the Hara. It is at this point, beloved, that we say the guide's energy and the channel's energy have merged into one. For the guide's energy now enters the Hara, wherein rests the energy of the psychic mind. So the psychic energy, which is the guide or the master, will mingle with the psychic energy in the subconscious region of the channel. Do understand that when we use the word channel, we mean all healers as well. It does not only mean a trance channel, for healers are also powerful beings of light. The more the merger with the guide's psychic energy, the greater and the more regular is your access to the guide's energy. As this process accelerates, the guide's energy begins to, in a sense, reside permanently within the Hara consciousness. And therefore, the channel will access what the channel believes is her own or his own energy, which it is. But it is her own or his own psychic energy that has been empowered, enlightened, strengthened, expanded, evolved by the merger of the guide's energy as well. At this stage, a further development takes place in the channel. The Hara that we refer to is not what you have referred to as the Hara chakra. The Hara consciousness that we are referring to here is the consciousness of one chakra that comes into activation when the filament between the intelligent mind and the subconscious mind becomes as thin as it could possibly get. At this stage of evolution of the channel, the Hara consciousness of a chakra which sometimes has been called the sun chakra begins to awaken. It awakens by itself. It lies behind and close to that which you have called the sacral chakra. There is no one who can activate this chakra for you. This Hara consciousness is a process that takes place continuously. In fact, as the seal begins to get thinner and thinner, Hara consciousness deepens greater and greater. When this so-called sun chakra activates, the inner light of the channel is at its peak. When this light chakra is at its greatest light activation mode, the channel can be seen by others as having a ring of light around her or him. This light has often been erroneously mistaken as the light that comes from the crown, whereas it is the light of the Hara. It originates from the Hara and spreads out around and envelops the spirit guide as well as the channel. This point of activation is where there is absolutely no distinction between the channel and the guide. For the light of the channel envelops the guide and not the other way around. Even as we speak through this medium, it is our light that envelops her, not her light that envelops us. When her light envelops us will be when she has reached her ultimate light activation that is possible in human form. That would be the acme of light body activation, beyond which the human body cannot be activated into light any further, for it would burst into flame. We prefer to call this chakra not the sun chakra, but the fire chakra. That which has been called the sacred fire, inner fire, lies within the Hara consciousness. And the only way to activate that inner fire, whether completely, as we have explained, or partially, as in most of humanity, is by making the seal between the two minds thinner. Again, there is no one who can make the seal thinner for you. Do not be fooled by anyone who will tell you that they can work upon your Hara consciousness in order to accelerate it. In fact, you should not permit such energy work to be done. Remember, as the energy strands are assimilated, your divine inner core of light gets into greater and greater enlightenment. Would this light not shine outside? How can it not be visible even to those who have no knowledge of that which has been called spiritual? You have had living masters who have emitted such light activation energy waves, where their energies have enveloped their overlord. When a human being has such a huge, what can be called a psychic field, wherein it can envelop the psychic field of the master himself, there is no distinction left at all between the master and the so-called channel. That is complete merger, wherein the channel is not referred to as channel anymore, but has become master energy. But that is attained, as we have said, by very, very few living masters. At the stage of evolution and consciousness, where you are and those like you are, your energies are still not as evolved, let us use that term, to embrace your master's energy. It is still your master's energy embracing yours. But the merger has begun in the subconscious mind. Here the two energies may not become one, but there is certainly an intermingling that has taken place. Liken this to two smoke worlds. The two worlds of smoke will merge one into the other. But you can constantly see them as two distinct worlds of smoke. Where the merger is complete, it is just one energy. You cannot distinguish one from the other. At that stage of merger, the so-called channel is not even aware of any channel, is not aware of any master, is not aware of any guide, of any overlord, is only aware of the one source. At this stage of your evolution, you are still aware of master energy. You are able to distinguish one master energy from the other. The very fact that you are able to decipher the master energies indicates that the merger has not taken place completely. There is most certainly an intermingling. There is most certainly a stage where the guide, master, overlord's energy resides in the subconscious region continuously, but it has not become one. And it has not become one because there are still unassimilated energy strands. The complete merger takes place when there is nothing left to assimilate. The Great White Brotherhood has only been understood as that which is not embodied. And that is not true at all. Your living masters are most certainly part of the Great White Brotherhood. This master, the one you have called the Maha-Avatar Babaji, has been your greatest example of a great white brother who volunteered to stay on and take on human embodiment. But that is not where the Great White Brotherhood ends either. Those like yours, whom we can call initiates, disciples, adepts, depending on the level of evolution of the channel and the light worker, are also part of the Great White Brotherhood. As soon as the light body activation, and please do understand, light body activation started the moment you entered what you have called your spiritual way of existence. In fact, if your light body activation had not reached that minimal level, you would not have turned to the spiritual way. You would have still been predominantly living the material way. The very fact that your conscious mind, the intelligent mind, has opened itself to another state of existence, a state of existence that cannot be seen, but can most certainly be experienced, shows you that your intelligent mind has gone beyond a state where it needs to see in order to believe. That state of mind can be reached when that first light body activation already takes place. As soon as that takes place and the disciple searches for a guru, let us please be very clear here that we are not referring only to your living gurus. We are including in this word all the energies of all the teachers and guides that be. But when the disciple looks for a guru, there is a questing for who am I? What am I? Why am I here? And then what is here? What is this that I call here? And what is this that I call there? These questions brings the disciple to a guru, a guide or a master who will then accept the energy of this questing disciple into their fold. It may not be the cosmic overlord whose energies will constantly flow through the divine core, constantly guiding every human being, whether the human being is aware or in non-awareness. But once a spirit guide opens up a stream of communication of energy between the questing disciple and the guide itself, that is the first step into the white brotherhood. The white brotherhood is nothing but a mass of energy that has reached a certain level of enlightenment. It has a wide range, a range that starts from the questing disciple and ends with the all-source. As this questing disciple gets enlightened and then begins to get initiation, which is nothing else but light body activations, the disciple moves further up the rung of the white brotherhood. When the initiations reach a certain level of enlightenment, the initiate is now recognized by the light signature that is emitted by the initiate and is now recognized as an adept. For the person has become adept in finding his or her own light within. The person has become adept at finding another's light. And thus on and on and on. And of course, as the disciple becomes an initiate and initiate becomes an adept, the seal between the physical mind and the subconscious mind is now getting thinner and thinner. Not all unassimilated strands get assimilated in your conscious awareness. Many times, your conscious awareness is drawn to the unassimilated strands by the events that take place outside of you. But beloveds, we tell you that there are several unassimilated strands that you have already assimilated without becoming aware of it at all. And you have assimilated them by sometimes just becoming aware of another reality, which you resonate with so strongly that your resonance creates assimilation. Sometimes you are able to see another's non-assimilation process and are in fact able to assimilate your own by just witnessing another's process. But of course, each one has 4 strands. Strands which have a lot of denseness. Those cannot be assimilated unless you experience their denseness first. And that is what you have called trauma. that is the experience of a death. So when you experience what you think is a difficult situation, all that you are experiencing is the depth of denseness. So we urge you, do not get caught in that event. Look at that event objectively. If you wish, you may put it upon some kind of scale in order for you to understand how dense that strand is. Once you have identified the denseness, then proceed to make it more and more refined. First, by understanding. Remember, beloveds, the first step to any assimilation is only awareness. And to be truly aware, you must be able to observe without emotional involvement. When you are emotionally involved, you are not observing at all. And thus the denseness continues to prevail. Train yourself to step out of yourself. Step out of yourself instantly. What you do, beloved, is first get caught and then you step back. We are asking you to be observant at all times. Just observe. This is what this person is saying. I am hearing it. There is a reaction within me. What is this reaction? And let there be two persons dwelling in your mind. The one that is constantly observing, the other who is going through the process from non-assimilation to assimilation. Observe, observe, observe. For if you can witness the event, you will understand whether the event was about helplessness and power, whether it is about insecurity, about lack of love or rejection. All healers heal by intent. But some healers have the power to magnify the energy of their intent by their own energetic work. When intent is strong, one moment of intent is far more valid than 10 hours of what you might call an actual healing process. The method of healing and channeling can differ with the cosmic guide or overlord whose energy you are accessing.